The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Plain manila, no return address, just a postmark from Columbus, Ohio, and Arthur Webb's name typed on the front. Inside was a single photocopied document, 3 pages, bank letterhead from 1994, internal memorandum, marked confidential, do not file in customer records. Arthur read the first paragraph standing in his driveway, read the second paragraph sitting on his porch steps, read the third paragraph twice. Then he called his daughter. "Sarah," he said, "I need you to come home." Arthur Raymond Webb was 73 years old. He lived alone in a small house on the east side of Youngstown, Ohio. The house was paid off, had been since 2003. He'd worked 47 years to pay it off. 47 years of third shift at the steel mill. 47 years of overtime whenever they'd let him take it. 47 years of every dollar going exactly where it needed to go, and nowhere else. He'd retired in 2018 at 65. Pension and Social Security combined gave him $2,100 a month. It was enough. He didn't need much. But for 30 years, from 1994 to 2024, Arthur had believed he owed the bank $18,000. And for 30 years, he'd been paying it back. $125 a month. Every month. Same day. Never missed once. The memo said he'd never owed it at all. Arthur had started at Republic Steel in 1971. He was 18 years old, hired on the blast furnace line. The work was brutal, hot, dangerous. Men died there. Not often, but often enough that everyone knew someone. Arthur showed up on time, did what he was told, kept his head down. By 1975, he was a shift supervisor. By 1980, he was running the furnace floor on third shift. The pay was union scale. Good pay for Youngstown. Better than his father ever made. His father had worked the same mill, 26 years. Got laid off in 1977 when the plant downsized. Never found steady work again. Died in 1983 with $400 in the bank and a rented apartment he couldn't afford. Arthur made a promise to himself the day his father died. He would own something. A house, a piece of ground, something that couldn't be taken away when the mill decided it didn't need him anymore. He bought the house in 1979, small 2-bedroom on East Rayan Avenue, $24,000. He put down $5,000 he'd saved over 8 years, financed the rest through Midwest Federal Bank, 15-year mortgage at 11% interest. He paid it faithfully, every month, never late, not once. His wife, Linda, worked at the grocery store on Market Street. She brought home $180 a week. They lived carefully. No vacations, no new cars, no dinners out. The house came first, always. Linda died in 1988, heart attack. She was 34 years old. Arthur found her on the kitchen floor when he got home from third shift. The coroner said she'd been gone for hours. Arthur kept working, kept paying the mortgage, raised their daughter Sarah alone. She was 6 when Linda died. By 1994, Arthur had 5 years left on the mortgage. The balance was down to $6,200. He could see the end of it. 5 more years and the house would be his, free and clear. Then the letter came. The letter was dated March 18, 1994. Midwest Federal Bank. It stated that a review of Arthur's mortgage account had identified a calculation error in the original 1979 amortization schedule. The error had resulted in underpayment of principal over 15 years. The total deficiency was $18,000. The letter stated that the bank required immediate payment of the full amount. If payment could not be made in full, the bank would accept a payment plan of $125 per month until the deficiency was resolved. Arthur read the letter 3 times. He didn't understand it. He'd paid every month, the exact amount the bank told him to pay, for 15 years. How could he owe $18,000? He called the bank, spoke to a woman in customer service. She put him on hold, came back 7 minutes later, confirmed the deficiency, said the calculation had been reviewed by the bank's auditing department. said the amount was correct. Arthur asked to see the original amortization schedule. She said it wasn't available. Records from 1979 had been archived. Arthur asked to speak to a manager. She transferred him. He waited 11 minutes. No one picked up. The line disconnected. He went to the bank in person the next day. Waited 40 minutes to see someone. Was told the same thing. Calculation error. Deficiency owed. Payment plan available. Arthur didn't have $18,000. He had $1,400 in savings. He was 41 years old. He had a 12-year-old daughter. He couldn't lose the house. He signed the payment plan agreement on March 25, 1994. $125 a month. Every month. For the next 30 years. The payments continued after the original mortgage was paid off in 1999. Arthur asked the bank why. Was told the deficiency was separate from the mortgage, a legacy account. It had to be cleared before the lien could be fully released. The payments continued after Arthur retired in 2018. He was 65, living on $2,100 a month. The $125 payment was still going out on the 15th of every month, automatic withdrawal. He'd set it up in 2001 and never changed it. The payments continued until February 2024. That's when Midwest Federal Bank was acquired by PNC Financial Services Group. All Midwest Federal accounts were transferred. All legacy accounts were flagged for review. Arthur received a letter in March 2024 stating that his legacy deficiency account had been closed. Balance, $0. No explanation, just a form letter thanking him for his business. Arthur didn't understand. He'd paid $125 a month for 30 years. That was $45,000. For a deficiency that was supposed to be $18,000. He called PNC, was transferred 4 times, finally spoke to someone in legacy account resolution. They told him the account had been closed as part of the acquisition. They couldn't provide details. Midwest Federal's records were being archived. Arthur hung up, stared at the letter. Something wasn't right, but he didn't know what to do about it. The reporter's name was Michael Grandin. He worked for the Columbus Dispatch. He'd been investigating Midwest Federal Bank for 8 months. The bank had been sold to PNC in 2024, and during the acquisition, a whistleblower had leaked internal documents to the press. The documents showed a pattern. From 1992 to 1998, Midwest Federal had systematically created false deficiency claims on paid or nearly paid mortgages. Targets were selected based on age, income, and likelihood of compliance. The deficiencies were always between $15,000 and $25,000, always accompanied by a payment plan option. The internal strategy was simple. Customers would either pay the deficiency over time or lose their homes. Most paid. The revenue was categorized as legacy account recovery. It appeared legitimate in the bank's financial statements. Over 6 years, Midwest Federal had created 247 false deficiency claims. Total revenue, $4.1 million. The scheme ended in 1998 when a senior auditor raised concerns. The program was quietly shut down. The deficiency accounts were recategorized as customer payment agreements. No refunds were issued. No public disclosure was made. When PNC acquired Midwest Federal in 2024, the legacy accounts were flagged. PNC's legal team reviewed them, realized what they were, closed them immediately to avoid liability. But PNC didn't contact the customers, didn't issue refunds, just closed the accounts and archived the records. Michael Grandin had 247 names. He'd been calling them one by one. Most were dead. Some had moved. A few had answered but didn't want to talk. Arthur Webb was number 183 on the list. Grandin mailed him a copy of the internal memo on May 6, 2026. Sarah Webb arrived at her father's house the next morning. She was 44 years old, lived in Cleveland, worked as a paralegal. She'd grown up in this house, left for college in 2000, visited twice a month. Arthur showed her the memo. She read it sitting at the kitchen table, the same table she'd eaten breakfast at every morning for 18 years. "Dad," she said, "this is fraud." "I know. You paid them $45,000 for a debt that never existed." "I know. We're suing them." Arthur didn't say anything. "Dad, we're suing them." "I'm 73 years old, Sarah." "So? I don't have the energy for this." Sarah looked at him. "You paid them $125 a month for 30 years. You paid them through Mom's death, through my college, through your retirement. You paid them when you didn't have the money to pay them, and they knew the whole time it was fake. Arthur stared at the table. We're suing them, Sarah said again. Sarah found an attorney in Youngstown. His name was Raymond Kolb, practiced consumer protection law for 22 years. He reviewed the memo and Arthur's bank records in his office on May 10th. This is the clearest case of fraud I've seen in a decade, he said. PNC inherited the liability when they bought Midwest Federal. They're responsible for the refund. How much? Sarah asked. Full restitution, $45,000, plus statutory damages, plus interest compounded from the date of first payment. Depending on the calculation method, we're looking at $95,000 to $120,000. Arthur sat quietly in the chair beside Sarah. Will they fight it? Sarah asked. They'll try to settle, Raymond said. They don't want this in court. The memo proves intent. If this goes to trial, we'll win. And they know it. Raymond filed the claim on May 14, 2026. PNC's legal team called Raymond Kolb on May 17th. 3 days. That was all it took. The call lasted 12 minutes. PNC's attorney made an offer, $50,000, full release of liability, confidential settlement, no admission of wrongdoing. Raymond said no. PNC called back on May 20th. New offer, $75,000, same terms. Raymond said no. PNC called back on May 24. Final offer, $118,000. Full restitution plus compounded interest calculated at the statutory rate. Confidential settlement. Standard release. Raymond called Arthur, explained the offer. Take it, Arthur said. You could get more if we go to trial. I don't want a trial. I want it over. Raymond scheduled the settlement meeting for May 30th, 2026. The meeting was in a conference room in downtown Youngstown. Small, neutral. A mediator from the State Bar Association presided, not a judge, just a facilitator. PNC sent 2 attorneys, both in their 30s, both from the bank's National Legal Department in Pittsburgh. They arrived with briefcases and printed settlement documents. Arthur arrived with Sarah and Raymond Kolb. He wore a clean shirt, work boots polished, the same boots he'd worn to the mill for 40 years. The mediator opened the meeting at 2 p.m., reviewed the terms, asked if both parties agreed. PNC's lead attorney spoke first, confirmed the settlement amount, $118,000, confirmed the confidentiality clause, confirmed the release of all claims. Raymond Kolb confirmed acceptance on behalf of Arthur Webb. The mediator asked Arthur directly, Mr. Webb, do you understand the terms of this settlement? I do. Do you accept them? I do. The mediator slid the documents across the table. Arthur signed. PNC's attorneys signed. The mediator notarized. The meeting ended at 2:17 p.m. No drama, no argument, no cross-examination, just signatures and silence. Arthur walked out of the building with Sarah beside him. The sun was bright. The air was warm. He didn't say anything until they reached the truck. I want to go see the house, he said. They drove to East Rayan Avenue, parked in front of the small 2-bedroom Arthur had bought in 1979. The house he'd paid for 3 times over, once with the mortgage, once with the fake deficiency, once with 47 years of third shift at a steel mill that didn't exist anymore. Arthur got out of the truck. Sarah followed. They walked up the driveway together, stood in the yard, looked at the house. Arthur didn't say anything for a long time. Then, your mother picked out the paint color. Sarah looked at the siding, pale yellow, faded now, but still yellow. I remember, she said. They stood there a while longer. Then they walked the perimeter, slowly. Arthur pointing out things he'd fixed over the years. The porch railing, the gutter, the back fence. Small things. Things that broke and were repaired and broke again. When they came back around to the front, Arthur stopped, put his hand on the mailbox post. The post he'd set in concrete in 1981. It's paid for, he said. Sarah didn't say anything, just stood beside him. It's really paid for this time. They got back in the truck, drove to the diner on Market Street, ordered coffee, sat across from each other in a booth by the window. Arthur had spent 30 years paying a debt that never existed. had spent $45,000 he didn't have to spend, had worked third shift while the bank counted his money and filed it under legacy account recovery. But he had the house, and he had his daughter, and the check would arrive in 14 days. Some victories don't feel like victories. They feel like getting back something that was stolen while you were looking the other way. The land gives back exactly what you put into it. Arthur believed that. He never stopped putting into it, even when the bank was taking from him with one hand and holding out the other. There are 246 other names on that list. Some of them are still alive. Some of them paid for 30 years just like Arthur. Some of them never knew. Stories like this don't get told enough. Subscribe, and we'll make sure they do. Next time, a 70-year-old woman walks into a county records office with a receipt from 1967, and a pipeline company realizes they've been drilling on her land without permission for 19 years. We'll see you there. Paste your script.